Welcome to the story about the parish of Ydby in the southern part of Thyland. This will be part of our investigation into what happened, the place names and all this in the 1600s and the 1700s, where we will see if we can find out more about people here, more about the customs, and more about the everyday life and business here. The parish Ydby is located in the southern part of Thyland. Thyland has, you could say, 5 districts, and these districts in Danish is called herred. Each herred has about a dozen or so, a little more, parishes. Ydby is one of the parishes in the Revs herred. Our understanding of the archaeology of this area is still improving a lot. We are here looking at parts of the amber trade. You have an amber on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you will see the amber with backlit. As it is translucent, it's quite extraordinary what patterns you get. So we have it in many things in this area. We make discoveries, and it takes time for us to discover what we really have found. These maps are supposed to help you to understand how central this Ydby is in Thyland, as it is situated between the Atlantic Ocean, or you could say North Sea, and the system of fjords behind. The overall name of the fjord is Limfjorden, but Ydby is located at a branch of this Limfjord called Skibsted Fjord. It seems the fjord has a sub-branch called Fladsted Fjord, meaning Fladsted Fjord. And we are in this event here, we are trying to establish where that is. The fjord is quite significant. It's about 2 kilometers, 20 kilometers almost, with all the dried out and dammed areas. Also, the map is supposed to show you the location between Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, the northern tip of Europe, and the connection to like England, Russia, and so on and so forth. Location of a variety of place names has been hard in this one. Arcady is one of them. Not even the locals knows where it is, but I found it on one of these older cards from about 1780, and it helped us to determine Akker is probably a person name, and Die means dike. That it's likely that dike, which can be seen south of the name there. So this is what I'm proceeding with. A place name like Akker shows significance in the Danish Isles. On this map, you can see a variety of Akker places. We have an Akker Borg, an Akker Island, another Akker Island, an Akker Dike, and multiple other Akker things. And they are like pearls on a small thread. So it's fair to assume it's some sort of like a business network we see the reminder of here. Here we are looking behind the Akker or Akker Dike into the Akker Huse area. clearly showing rolling hills and large moss. We call it mose, or wetlands in front, flat wetlands. And this is like the location or somewhere near the flatstead. On this map of Ydby Skibsted, we have Ydby Parish to the left with an island called Bodum here center right, also called Boyes Land, and to the south we have Thyholm, a separate island. And what is indicated with yellow is three large group of Bronze Age hills containing dozens of burials, each one of them. And the island of Bodum at the time, probably when these Bronze Age hills were erected, was separated by a fjord or a stream there, which is still can be still is indicated at this map around 1875. What is significant about the Tvolm hills at the top left is that is a very tall complex, and if you situate yourself on the center groups of hills in the middle, you get four directions, all suiting perfectly to the change during the four seasons: summer solstice, winter solstice, and sunset and dawn. And the screenshot in front of you is from an iPhone, an app called Sun's Path, and shows the sunset and sunrise in the summer in red, and same in blue for winter. And it was not lost on the ancient people, probably, that there is a mirror effect reflection in the winter and summer. So it creates some sort of a wheel, you could say. In the next shot, you will see we have organized the orientation of this screenshot to fit with north to the top. The direction to the northwest for the sunset in the summer solstice, is the only direction which does not have a coastline to help it. On the other hand, it points directly to the Bronze Age hill fort complex of Tvolm, which can be seen as a hill located to the right of the Ydby church in the center of the picture. What you can see is Vestervig Kloster, the most famous abbey in this area of the country, which lays directly behind the church, suggesting that this direction may have had significance. None of the church would have been located anywhere else in not far from an already religious place. Typically up here we hear that it was the women who chose Christianity first. So Christianity may have been in this area several hundred years before the end of Viking Age, and such has a dual religion system in this area. There are several large ship settings. They are about plus 20 or even 50 meters The four of the major ones are located on this map, and they all you could say support the idea of a calendar and a respect for these seasonal directions. The name of the entire district is Reves. However, there's only a tiny village left called Reves. There's multiple pieces of Reves around. Ydby is on this map at the left south end there. And in establishing the original location of Reves, I have produced this map, finding the Reves Torp, Reves Hove, Reves Hede, which is Mur, Reves Bøl, which is a small town. It may have been so that Reves was a center village at one time, and all these areas surrounding it was connected to that town. There is also a biskop, meaning the bishop's farm, or a large bishop estate, all indicating the significance of this Reves, which is the center today of the district of Reves. The origin of the term rev likely gotta be in the English term reef, like a barrier reef. Previously, there was a massive reef out in the North Sea called Jutland's Reef, which has now eroded completely away. So it might be a reflection of that. Sometimes rev is like a fox, in Danish rev, but more likely it's a reef. The following two maps are from 1694 and are focused on the seafaring capabilities of this area. So what you see is Mors Land in the center and the Limfjord all around. You have Skibsted Fjord on the very left center, and that is in both maps indicated that there is a waterway through Skibsted Fjord into Visum Breding and further out to the ocean, but it's not indicated as some sort of like a permanent waterway. You sense that you will be able to pull your boat through at certain conditions. None of these maps locates Fladsted Fjord, but we have to assume what is now called Sinderup here about maybe Fladsted. Otherwise, we will have to come back to this one. This map from about 1797 indicates the major pieces of Ydby area. So if you find Tvolm in the center and go two names up, you have Revstorp at the top. That's the top center of the Ydby Parish. Flarup is part, Tvolm is part, Simonsberg, Sinderup, Thyholmsvejle, and Draget at the bottom all constitute a part of Ydby Parish. As well, if you go right, you have Dover there, and Ydby Gård, as well as Skibsted. Skibsted is really Shipstead. Dover is, of course, a reflection of Dover in England, and is probably meaning over there, in Danish derover, or above us, someplace like this. The Flarup piece may be a reflection of the Flatsted Fjord, which is not located, but maybe somewhere between Tyholmsvejle and Schibsted Fjord. And then again, we have the Agadi at the bottom and the whole Refs area at the top. Houses. And we assume that Agadi is a dike to the south of this. Also is located the Tinghus, meaning the district courthouse, and Tyholmsvejle is that tiny river thing there north of Thy. There's a mentioning of Røgens Ø, meaning Smokes Island, and that must be the left part of this thing and the oil of that one. And then we do not have any indication of the Flatsted location or the Flatsted Fjord, except Flatsted Fjord gotta be this remaining part of Schibsted Fjord here. But we have to confirm this with another map at a later date. Now we will continue into the administration of Ydby in a period from 1600 to 1799. And looking at the photo of Ydby Kirke by Claude David, we look at a traditional granite church. However, this is not very old. It burned in 1742. So likely the granite and all this is original pieces, but all the woodwork inside and what is there has burned down, and it's basically a new construction. So not much for personal studies is left before 1742, and that can be seen in the records. Going to my website, you can see further details about the things after 1742, which is a tiny portion, but well documented already. The church patron is Saint Morten or Saint Martin, and he's the patron saint of social justice, racial harmony, and mixed race people, suggesting exactly the location of Ydby, which is here in a crossroad of everybody, and also at a location where there must have been tremendous health and wealth and all this when big whales and large hordes of animals and all this passed through. Only a few years later to leave people in despair when there's no more whales or no more game, and therefore a deep understanding of wealth and poor people, which is exactly what Saint Martin he stands for. A few local people and patrons are mentioned in the church in writings on stones and in the furnitures and all this. And the list of this is recorded here. That's what you're looking at. And some of these people are found again on the online Geni web tree. And there you can see if you're unfamiliar with those. The parish map of Ydby from about 1814 we are looking at here indicates a few larger farms. They may not be large at the time we are talking about here, let's say 1787, but may have been big earlier, typical farms up here in Jylland, they will be large at one point, then they will collapse into multiple farms, maybe because of the family split into younger brother, older brother, the older family members in one house, and so on and so forth. And if the intensity, the way you farm the land, if that increases, you're going to be more family members on these lands, and so on and so forth. These 4 farms indicated here are the ones we will look at a little closer on in the next few slides. There will be Revstorp in the north, Dover Farm, Dover Gård to the right, Holmegård at the south there, and Skibsted Gård at the bottom. We have yet another place name to locate, and that is Tvolm, which is very hard. Essentially, the entire Ydby area becomes split into 3 parts or 3 legs, as shown on this map. So the pale red is then Tvolm, with the major hill, Bronze Age burial hills up to the northeast, and the church, the Christian church in center of Tvolm. And that is important for the understanding of who is where and what is what. If this is correct, and I have not been able to confirm this anywhere, then it's just a little weird. There is people who has the name Yde. So Ydby could be the place where Yde has lived, and Tvolm could be the center of this one. And thus we end up with this hybrid of things here. But we have to see later on if we can figure this out. The things which support this is the following chart of who owns what and who is farming what in the following slides. Here we are looking at the matrikel for Ydby in 1787. We have on the right the census 1787, and to the left we have the matriculus showing ownership and tenancy. Tenancy is blue in the center for every lot of Ydby town, and the numbers indicate the tenants from 1 to 12. Most of them in the beginning owns their own land. It's not clear who owns the bottom 6 to 12. The small houses from about 1 to 6 has a tiny land to them. And at the bottom you have 2 without land, just houses probably at the road. On the right-hand side, you see the collaborating census, meaning husband and wife, and the entire family and setup can be found in census 1787, which is online. Here we are looking at Tvolm by, Tvolm village. Has fewer tenants and of course then fewer owners, but all of them which are mentioned owns their property themselves, called selvejer, owner themselves. And we have, as typical, the larger farms shown first and then the tinier ones down, except number 8 is quite large. The corresponding census on the right-hand side. Here you see Flarup Township as well as Revs Township. Here that these are tiny. Flare up is the one which goes possibly with Flatsted Fjord as well. And Reefs for sure goes with the rest of Reefs located in the other surrounding parishes. So you have to be very conscious about which Reefs you are talking about. But here it's clear which one is in here, Olaf Landbo and so on and so forth, 5 families. Here we look at Sinderup, which is quite large in 1787-8, plus Holmgard, which is as usual about 4 families in this case, 3 major parts and 3 minor. Doverby is here. It's quite large, about 12 farmsteads. As you can see, 7 smaller houses with some land, tiny land to it. And the taxation is the numbers in the yellow field, and a few houses without any land at all. Most people own their own land and house. So the farms which is missing here is, it's not spelled out, but probably number 12 is Dover Mill. Likely 11 is Kortegård. It could be Korsgård, maybe Kortbæk up here is a Kortegård. You can see Gadegård, Hovgård. Dovergård is in there, but it's not mentioned, not spelled out. But that can be found in different maps and tables. Here a dikenet for eel, or in Danish, åleruse. Taking a word from the term funnel, possibly originally made of some sort of grass or anything else which could create this form. And probably this invention has meant a lot to the peoples up here when it first arrived. I don't know how old that can be, but it could have meant a massive increase in food. And it's a very oily fish, which can help people get through the winter very easily because the fat helps in the cold. And then again, later, now there's almost no eel up there. So this is the way it goes. Inventions like this creates massive production of food, and years later, you have to look for new things. And that's the life around Limfjorden.